Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're going to be working with a Vanda orchid. I need to, well, not repot because this is not potted. I need to intervene a little bit with this Vanda because I presume we have a little issue with it. So remember how I told you that you will know when something is rotting or dying in your pot or basket by the smell? Well, this little Vanda spreads joy in my greenhouse at this moment. I just watered my Vanda orchids and this one smells bad. Now, the smell of decomposing roots or medium or algae or whatever is not similar to, let's say, food going bad. One of my viewers described it as chemical, and it's strong. It fills a room after you water it. When it's dry, it doesn't smell all that bad. When you water it, all those byproducts of decomposition start to spread in the air, and that's not funny. So, in case you don't know, this is my Rinko stylist, I think Lara Gold. I purchased her earlier this year, and if you remember, she had a ton of roots. Well, later on, I discovered that most of these roots were dead, so I had to chop them off, but there is a chance that I missed a few, and those are now going bad in this pot. Also, I see a lot of algae formation. Do you see this? None of my Vandas do this. So there is a chance there's also some algae that I need to get rid of there because they're dead now. They grew on top of each other. I do feel the need to intervene with this orchid. It doesn't look all that great. I want to change the pots too. It's really hard to bear the smell of this orchid right now. So let's get to work. Let's see what we find inside this basket. It's a pot, but I use it as a basket. Okay, so the moment of truth. Oh dear, it smells so bad. Okay, root-wise, it doesn't seem to look all that bad. I mean, I do see dead roots. I just watered this. I do see dead roots. There you go. Not a whole lot, but you know, it doesn't take a lot of dead roots to start a colony of decomposition bacteria. But look at the state of the microfiber. It is full of algae, and this is dead algae. It's not live. Yay, there we go. The first case that I can actually show you. I've dealt with dead algae in my life so many times. Oh my God. I took a gulp of air through my mouth and I felt the smell and I think I need a mask for this one. So I've dealt with dead algae so many times in my life, but I never thought to film them. And when we had that discussion about algae being bad or good, well, there you go. Now I have something to show you. Let me get you in close. I'm sorry I don't have smell-o-vision. If I would definitely share the smell with you because it's unbearable, almost. Very, very gross what's going on here. So I will remove the microfiber as much as possible. Some threads I will not remove. Microfiber, just like any other textile or texture material, actually adheres to the roots, and yeah, I would rather not risk them. It's not going to decompose as long as I just remove these bits that I don't think I can salvage. I'm gonna save them. I'm gonna try to wash them, see what happens. But yeah, I'm gonna remove as much of the microfiber as possible. I'm gonna cut it and leave these little bits on the roots just so I don't disturb them, and come back when I'm done to cut away the dead roots. And we're back. I have to tell you guys good news. From the thick roots of a Vanda orchid, the microfiber actually came right off. I had to wiggle it a little bit, imagine some bark chips, but it really paid off that I soaked my orchid prior to working on it. So I actually tried to save the microfiber. It was beyond savable. It was really slippery, mushy, and I just couldn't get all that gunk out of it. So sadly, it had to be thrown away, which is not very economical, but I think it went a little bit beyond the point of being able to be saved. The other microfiber on the other Vanda orchids looks a lot better than this one. Anyway, so the good news is I did not damage the root system. I removed all of those pieces of very bad looking microfiber, and now it's time to cut away the root system. Now, I did have a few questions regarding Vanda orchids about roots. How do you know that a root is alive, and how do you know if it's dead? Well, I have to start off by saying that if the roots green up when you water them, it's not necessarily a sign that they are alive. Yes, in many cases it is. As you can see here, all of these roots that are now greened up, they're alive. However, though, there are roots that have algae deposits on them, especially when you get new Vanda orchids from a nursery that kept the Vanda bare rooted in very high moisture environment. The algae just deposited on the roots, and when you water them, they will green up, but it doesn't mean the root is alive. So the best way to do is to not necessarily press on them, but to gently try to bend them. If they're easily bendable, like this one, hope you can see, chances are it's dead. Try to bend a live root and it's impossible, absolutely impossible, because Vanda orchid roots are really thick, really rigid, and you cannot really work with them all that much. Also, visually, you can see there is a difference. This root looks like it has substance. It's thick and fleshy, let alone it's green, while these roots, this and this, they just don't look like they're having a good day. This is because they're dead. So you are absolutely free and safe to cut these roots. And if you want to double check yourself, look into the section you just made. Do you see any green material? No. Do you see any fleshy substance? No. This root is definitely dead. The middle that you see right here, the string actually, that's the actual root. The outer coating is just the velamen. So we are now happy with ourselves that we made a correct decision to cut these roots because they indeed were dead. Generally, because dead roots lose their substance, they become thinner. But it's not a universal rule. You can have dead roots that are still thick. Let's look at this tip. You can see right here that I have quite a thick root, but it is dead. At least the tip of this root is dead. You can see here there is no green, no substance. You'll also have roots that you don't know if they're dead or alive, such as this one. So all you can do is test. This root is dead. If you don't want to test it, then it's okay, let it be. You can intervene some other time. So there we go. Look at this root. We made a right decision because it was dead. But if you saw it, it is a little bit green, see, because it has algae formation, but it is indeed a dead root. Also, not extremely flexible and not extremely thin. Well, this is a thick root that died recently, I suppose. With time and experience, trust me, you will see them from a mile away, which root is dead, which root is alive. But until then, it's okay if you want to experiment. If you're not sure about a root but you have serious doubt, you can either let it be but keep an eye on the orchid, or snip a section of it and see if it is indeed dead. If it's still alive, well, then that's just a lesson for you for the future. This is how we learn, trial and error. And sometimes we do mistakes and sometimes we do things we shouldn't do just because we are learning. That's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the root system as best as I can. I also have here some remains of an old crown. You might not remember, but this orchid came with some damaged crowns and you can see a stump there. That's where a crown used to be and I had to cut it off because it completely died off. So some sections of this orchid were not very healthy and they were lost. So I'm guessing some of these roots belonged to those sections. That's why I have quite a few dead roots. They're not very, very many, as you can see, but enough to create an algae apocalypse, apparently. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the root system as best as I can, and I'll come back when I'm done. And I'm done, but I just wanted to add a few more things before we went ahead and repotted this orchid. We're actually putting it in a new basket or pot. Before I started to chop away at the root system, I sprayed it with hydrogen peroxide 3%. And this is because I knew there was a high chance that I would chop away some good roots or some still alive, maybe sick roots. Anyway, create a wound that could invite in all sorts of pathogens that might be present on the orchid. So by spraying hydrogen peroxide 3% on the entire root system, I got rid of some spores, some pathogens. I sterilized practically a bit of my working area. Now I know that some people suggest that you are destroying some good bacteria or microorganisms that form naturally around the root system. I don't know if I am or not because I don't have a microscope to tell you and identify the microorganisms that are present on the roots of the orchids we grow, not the orchids in nature. So I cannot say that's true or false, but let's pretend it's true for the funsies. I personally would rather not have the good microorganisms and also not have issues with my orchids. I think it's a very, very small price to pay for, let's say, fusarium. Yeah, I don't want to have fusarium in my orchid. Or bacterial infections or fungal infections. I had a Vanda who died from a very serious fungal infection that I didn't know how to treat, and it killed my orchid. So as far as I'm concerned, I can do very well without those possible microorganisms. I don't want my Vanda orchid to be infected. Now let's see the root system a little bit, because I cut away all sorts of roots here. So I told you that the roots which are not alive anymore should be cut away, but what do we do with half and half roots? And what I mean by that, half dead or desiccated, half alive. Now here's an example that I cut away. As you can see, my root is pretty much alive here. It's stiff and functioning, but dead here. And this is how it was attached to the orchid. Definitely I can cut it away because the section which was attached to the orchid died away already and it was advancing downwards. So the root system could not get food and nutrients from the mother orchid. Therefore, both of these sections, even though alive, they would have been dead within a week or something. Now, I also cut away something I shouldn't. There you go. This is a live root, and as you can see, I have a section that appears dead, but it's not. And these are some algae deposits. I thought this was a dead root. It was not. It happens. It's okay. That's why we're spraying hydrogen peroxide on the orchid. I've also cut away, oh, where is it? I've also cut away this low stump, although it's still alive. But do you notice the color? It is yellow. This root is yellow not because it did not receive light, because it's in a transparent pot with no medium. It's because it is dying away. So yellow roots on orchids can mean both that they did not receive light and they just didn't fill with the chlorophyll pigment. There was no need to, but also they can mean they're sick or on their way out. So you kind of need to take into account the context. If you have a Phalaenopsis orchid and the roots inside the middle, in the core, let's say, of the pot, which did not receive light, if those roots are yellow but stiff and firm, they're perfectly fine. In our case, this root was exposed to light. It should have had the chlorophyll pigment. It doesn't. It doesn't feel all that stiff anyway, so context matters. This was safe to cut. So because we did create a few open wounds on my orchid, I am just going to spray hydrogen peroxide on the root system once again. I am running out. And I know some of you asked me if you should rinse the orchid after you treat it with hydrogen peroxide. No, there is no need. After the reaction with the organic material, hydrogen peroxide transforms into oxygen, which is released in the air, and it's harmless, and also water, which again is harmless if it doesn't remain stuck in the crowns. After you spray an orchid with hydrogen peroxide 3%, not higher, I wouldn't go higher than this, you'll hear a little bit of a fuzz. Don't worry, it's supposed to happen. It's simply the reaction between the hydrogen peroxide and the organic material. So I'm just gonna go clean up a little bit my tray, disinfected once again, and we'll come back to pot, kind of the orchid. And we're back, and guess what? I don't have any more microfiber. These are the only threads that I still have, new and unused. It's okay, I can purchase later. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this pot is big enough, but we're gonna try. If not, I'm just gonna get a bigger pot for her. Let's see. Oh, I think it's okay though. Because I'm just using it as a holder at the end of the day, maybe a sort of a basket, I don't care if the roots don't all fit inside the pot. Vanda roots will go all over the place anyway, so I think it's okay. I just need a place for the hook to be hung. That's pretty much the only purpose of the pot, and also to hold on to that microfiber, which I'm sure it will do. So this orchid fits in pretty well. I don't need to change the pot. So I'm going to arrange the microfiber around the root system as much as I can. And that's pretty much it for now. Let's put on the hook. Let's see. I want it to stay like this. Alrighty, so now all we have to do is water this orchid. And here's my watering corner where I water and drain all of the Vandas, and it is indeed watering day. I don't normally soak them around this time of the year, but since I was in the greenhouse, why not? So as you can see, my Vanda is watered separately, and this is because, well, it has some issues with the crowns. One of them died, or two of them, if I remember correctly, so I thought there was an infection going through the orchid, but it would appear that the rest of the orchid looks perfectly fine. It might have been some stem rot or crown rot actually with those crowns. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I thought I should water her separately, and I still am because I have trust issues, let's say, but she's looking quite great. She grew a lot ever since I purchased her. These leaves are all new, and hopefully she's gonna bloom next spring. So there we have it. That was my routine when it comes to removing dead roots and smelly medium and so on. Hope this was useful. The act itself of just removing or switching the medium or the pot, it's kind of easy, but there are a lot of things going on in the background that I personally do take into account, and I would like to share them with you because I know that you might have a lot of questions. Why do I do things like this and not like that? And why do I spray stuff and so on? So I always prefer to tell you about what I do with every repotting or every intervention. And I know one of you guys really wants to see some more repotting, so we're gonna do them. But hopefully this was a good starter and you learned something new. And you know the drill. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!